Hurricane Irma has come ashore near Marco Island, Florida, the eye very close to Naples, extreme wind gusts taking place, and very deadly potential for storm surge. I'm Mike Nasel with the latest on this very dangerous major hurricane. You can see the radar imagery of Irma. It came ashore earlier this morning as a Category 4 hurricane over the Florida Keys. It then made landfall recently in Marco Island, Florida as a Category 3 major hurricane. You can see the eye wall pushing now closer and closer to areas where Fort Myers, you're in the path of it, Charlotte Harbor, you're in the path, to say nothing of the heavy rain and very severe weather taking place along the east coast of Florida as well. Now here's the latest on Hurricane Irma as of 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Irma was at 26.2 north, 81.8 west. That's near Naples, Florida. Maximum sustained winds were down to 110, still gusting into the 130 range. We had a gust reported by the Marco Island Police Department to Category 4 intensity, 130 miles an hour. And then not soon after, we had a gust in Naples, Florida to 140 miles an hour. So we're dealing with Category 4 wind gusts, which is expected when you have a Category 3 landfall, moving north about 13 miles an hour or so, the fastest it's moved pretty much all day. 938 millibars, that pressure is still very low. In fact, the pressure of Irma right now inland as a Category 2 over Florida is the same as Harvey when it was a Category 4 hitting Texas. So barometrically speaking, this is still a very, very intense storm. You can see the forecast has it still as a hurricane over the next 12 hours or so, just going right along the coast, very close to Tampa Bay. You guys could still get water rises up to 8 feet or so, and then weakening and headed more inland towards midweek. Here's the latest radar out of, this is from Miami's radar. You can see the northern eye wall now going over Bonita Springs, Bonita Beach, that area. And you can see Cape Coral, Fort Myers Beach. You guys aren't too far away. The calm eye was observed in Naples and Marco Island. So this does have an eye. Now, as it moves to the north, the weather is going to get better. However, the winds are still going to be onshore. So you're going to see a very rapid water rise. As a matter of fact, in Marco Island right now, they are reporting that the tide is returning very quickly. So the storm surge is going to push into Marco Island very, very fast this evening, and then the waters will recede within a couple of hours. But until then, a very dangerous situation there, including the Everglades and then further up the coast. As we watch the eye wall, you can see right now an area like Orange Tree, Vineyards, Palm River, North Naples, Sunnyland. You guys are all within this eye wall of this very powerful historic Atlantic hurricane, Irma. You can see the wind field now, the tropical storm force winds all the way up the coast. And by the way, there are a lot of people who are quite surprised, and I'm one of them, how intense the winds are. Not just the Category 4 wind gusts in Naples and Marco Island, but also on the East Coast. A lot of times storms like this, Wilma had this situation. We had Irene in '99, which was a Category 1, but the winds, it came ashore on the West Coast, but the East Coast got slammed. Just because the storm came in on the West Coast does not mean we're not getting those strong winds further east. The Florida Peninsula is very narrow, and that's why we see that wind field the way it is now. You can see just a prolific track since it left Africa right through the islands, the Turks and Caicos, Cuba, and then a Category 4 in the Keys and a Category 3 in Marco. Quite a remarkable Atlantic hurricane. There's the visible satellite imagery. You can see the eye of the hurricane came ashore in Marco Island. It's now sitting inland. There are people reporting the calm eye, which means that the winds will return with a vengeance on the other side of the storm. And if you're near the beach, get to higher ground because storm surges can be delayed. And so even if the eye passed Marco, as I mentioned before, that surge moving ashore now, you can see the bubbling as the circulation here does a roundabout right near Fort Myers, and it'll continue straight on up the coastline over the next several hours. There's another look on the water vapor. I mean, Cuba did save Florida to some extent. The storm was a Category 5, and it was going to go over the Keys as a Category 5. That little ravage it did to Cuba, while bad for Cuba, did cause the system to weaken, but then it was able to come right back to a Category 4 and expand its wind field. So it's still a very dangerous hurricane and another U.S. major hurricane landfall. You know, we went 12 hurricane seasons and we didn't have any, and now we had Harvey and Irma just within a couple of weeks of each other. Hurricane season 2017, quite nasty. Look at the convection, still very strong there, even towards Lake Okeechobee. There is dry air pumping in, so hopefully the back side of Irma won't be as bad and intense as the front side. Now, Dr. Jeff Masters from WeatherUnderground.com posted this map. You can see the power outages from Ohio State and Texas A&M and University of Michigan. This is a prediction map, and you can see the power outages, which most of Florida on the west coast already has seen, but they will spread all the way up onto Tennessee and areas close to Atlanta, Memphis. You guys are going to see power outages because as Irma pulls towards the northwest, we're going to see the impact of the storm, even though it will not be a hurricane anymore. And that's also true with heavy rain. You can see the forecast. This is through Tuesday. Very heavy rain totals, even for areas of South Carolina here. So Irma is a large and prolific hurricane. Even though the wind speeds are starting to fall, the storm surge coming onshore, and obviously the very dangerous threat of severe weather. So Hurricane Irma making landfall this morning as a Category 4 hurricane in the Florida Keys, then as a major Category 3 hurricane over Marco Island, Florida. We'll continue to monitor it as dangerous Irma pushes inland. You can see now the eye passing Naples, headed for Bonita Springs, Fort Myers, you're next, and then further up the coast. I'm Mike Naso, and I'll see you guys next time.